The sales guy was already half drunk when he clinked his glass against the mic and launched into his little victory speech. We had zero downtime this quarter. Zero. That's not luck. That's execution. Sales killed it. Support held the line. And product, man, you guys shipped like machines. The room broke into applause. I stood near the back, holding a warm Coke, half listening. No one turned toward me. No one nodded in my direction. My name's Dan. I'm 52. I live in Spokane, Washington. I've been the senior systems engineer at this company for 13 years. When I do my job right, no one notices. But if a server blinks or a pipeline stalls for 10 minutes, I'm the first name in everyone's mouth. I watch the room laugh, clink glasses, give each other shoulder pats. Meanwhile, I'd spent Christmas Eve last year rebuilding a staging environment because some junior dev wiped it pushing a bad merge. I've missed birthdays, anniversaries, even my daughter's high school play. One year, I took 3 calls from Mark during Thanksgiving dinner. My wife just shook her head. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? Tonight they were celebrating flawless uptime. That was my uptime. I was the one patching firmware at 2 a.m. and tuning memory leaks no one else even noticed. I felt my jaw tighten as I watched Mark, my boss, raise his glass along with the rest of them. He didn't even glance at me. Mark never yelled. He didn't have to. He'd smile while dropping a comment that cut like a knife. Dan's the best there is, for now. Maybe we'll find someone cheaper who comes close enough. He said that in front of the whole ops team during a review. Last year, when I rebuilt the load balancer config from scratch to solve a caching bug, he turned it into a joke during all hands. Who knew the dinosaur still had some code left in him? People laughed. I didn't. When I brought up long overdue upgrades during a planning session, he told me I love to overcomplicate simple problems. That was his way. Undermine me just enough to keep me guessing, but never cross a line that HR would care about. Every time someone else got credit for a fix I wrote, every time he stole a slide from my doc and pretended it was his, I stored it, quietly, like filing receipts. I stood there, the ghost in the corner, while the party rolled on. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I was just paying attention. And I never forgot a single insult. I left the party early, didn't say goodbye, just walked to my car, turned the key, and started writing names in my head. By the time that holiday party rolled around, I'd already been sitting on something for 2 years, something big. Back then, I'd gotten fed up watching the same bottlenecks jam up every single release. We'd talk around it in meetings, make excuses, bad data indexing, fragile failovers, redundant back pressure controls. Everyone had a theory, nobody had a fix, so I built one. Nights, weekends, in my garage with a space heater humming next to my feet. I didn't touch a single line of company code. This wasn't some side tweak. It was a full rewrite of the flow architecture. Completely self-scaling, adaptive, clean. The damn thing breathed. It felt like cracking a safe nobody else even knew was locked. I called it Streamweave, filed a provisional patent on it under my name, and time-stamped every damn component. Didn't tell anyone at work. No need. It wasn't theirs. But the leak didn't come from some executive digging through my trash. It came from Mike, one of the junior devs I'd taken under my wing. Nice enough guy, sharp with numbers, but terrible with boundaries. One night over beers, I got too comfortable. Showed him a sketch of the logic on a napkin. Just the idea. I didn't think he'd get it. Apparently, he got enough. A month later, I spotted a familiar thread in a dev update. It was small, an internal data pipeline cleanup using a compression trick I'd built into Streamweave. I thought maybe it was a coincidence. Then another update dropped. This one was closer, way closer. They'd implemented a multi-path streaming flow, almost identical to mine, just wrapped in the company's language. Mike's name was in the commit log. So was Jason's, lead back-end guy. I didn't say anything at first, just watched, waited. 2 weeks after that, the architecture doc for the new product module dropped, and there it was. Not a copy, not a knockoff, my flow, my design, just renamed and stitched into a product I hadn't even touched. I went to legal. I brought the provisional filing, the dev timestamps, my laptop logs. The lawyer barely skimmed them before handing them back. Unless you're planning to monetize this yourself, Dan, it's not a company matter. It's just a process improvement. No, I said. It's patented architecture, and I didn't give it to anyone. He smiled like I was bothering him. But you didn't stop anyone either. That was the moment I knew I was on my own. So I started keeping records, quietly. Every deployment that hit production with a feature tied to my logic, I screenshotted it, saved the release notes, pulled the Git diffs, built a private repo, time-stamped, encrypted, backed up in 3 locations. They thought they'd taken a shortcut. What they'd done was plant a live wire under their entire infrastructure. Over the next 6 months, usage exploded. What started as a trickle became foundational. Every new build depended on it. Even the CTO mentioned it during an all-hands, calling it the future of our systems model. No idea where it came from. He just knew it worked. I kept my mouth shut. Never corrected anyone. Never asked for credit. I didn't need recognition anymore. I needed leverage. One night, I got pinged on Slack by another engineer, asking if I knew how the fallback handler in the new stream node was working. Said it was black magic and no one could explain it. I just wrote back, "No idea. Sounds cool though." They were building their empire on my blueprint, and they didn't even know it had a fuse. So, I waited. I kept working, kept smiling through stand-ups. Every bug I fixed, every alert I silenced, I let them think they were still in control. But I was already holding the trigger, and I made damn sure nobody could take it from me. I knew the clock was ticking. 1 year. That's how long a provisional patent gives you before it expires. If I didn't convert it, all the protection I had would vanish, and everything they were using would suddenly become fair game. So, I called Victor. He wasn't flashy. No glossy office downtown or commercial with his face on a billboard. Just an old warhorse in a tan jacket who'd been in the patent game since before I wrote my first line of code. We met at his office, 2nd floor above a shuttered travel agency. The carpet smelled like old coffee, and the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. "Still got that algorithm?" he asked, sliding into the cracked leather chair across from me. "Still mine," I said, pulling out the binder. He flipped through it, nodding as he read. "You documented it well, too well. Someone's been stealing." "Not stealing," I said. "Leeching." He smirked. "Let's make sure they regret it." We spent 5 hours rewriting everything from the ground up. Victor was ruthless with the language, not just protecting what I'd built, but locking the door behind it. Every clause was a noose: exclusive ownership, independent development, no implied licensing through employment, no work-for-hire loopholes, no co-inventor clauses, no way in hell for the company to claw back a single line of it. When we got to the infringement section, Victor leaned back. "How aggressive do you want to be?" "Brutal," I said. "I want them to trip the wire and eat the fine before they even know what hit them." He nodded and went back to typing. By sunset, the paperwork was done. I sat across from him, hand hovering over the signature line. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Once this is filed, there's no walking it back." "I was sure a year ago." I signed. The filing went out that night. Patent pending, full conversion, all rights held by Daniel Everett. Not the company, not any partner, not any team. Nobody else's name would ever touch it. The next morning, I took a drive. No music. Just the sound of my tires on the road and the quiet hum of an engine that didn't ask questions. When I got back, I started prepping. Pulled every record I'd stashed. Screenshots, diffs, Slack threads, emails. Sorted and backed up everything into a secured cloud vault. I drafted a timeline with dates, release versions, and cross-referenced each deployment that touched my architecture. It read like a slow, deliberate theft, stretched across 12 months. But this wasn't revenge, not yet. I wasn't angry. I wasn't pacing or clenching my fists. This wasn't some Hollywood moment. It was just readiness. I went to work like normal. I smiled when someone cracked a joke in the break room. I pushed updates, joined meetings, filed tickets, kept the servers healthy. But inside, something had shifted. They thought I was just the systems guy, a quiet piece of the machinery, a name on a Jira board. What I really was armed. It happened on a Tuesday. Mid-morning, right after stand-up, Mark messaged me. "Can you swing by my office?" I knew that tone. No, hey, no context, just clipped, clean. When I turned the corner toward his glass box, I saw her, Karen from HR, already sitting there with a manila folder in her lap. Game on. I walked in. Mark didn't stand, didn't smile, just gestured to the chair like he was offering me a root canal. "Dan," he said, voice syrupy, This isn't easy, but we've made the decision to go in a different direction. Karen placed the folder gently in front of me. This outlines your severance, COBRA options, and exit logistics. You'll have until Friday to transition any tasks, but your system access will be restricted as of this afternoon. Mark leaned back, lacing his fingers behind his head like he'd just won a golf tournament. You've done good work, really, but at the end of the day, we need someone who can evolve with the company's future. I didn't blink, didn't move, just looked at him. Then he glanced toward my desk through the glass, smirked. Oh, and that plan of yours? You'll need facilities approval to take it. Technically, it's company property once it crosses the threshold. Karen shot him a look, but he kept smiling. I stood up. Didn't speak. Didn't touch the folder. Just walked out. The office was dead silent. A few heads turned. Nobody said anything. One guy near the kitchenette looked down at his shoes like he was trying not to be seen. Back at my desk, I grabbed my personal items. My framed picture of Haley from her high school graduation. A USB drive. The plant. Spider Ivy, 10 years old. I took it. No one stopped me. No scene. No rant. No slammed doors. They thought they'd gutted me. That I'd walk out crushed. Maybe beg. What they'd really done was clear the runway. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of scotch and opened my contacts list. Scrolled until I found her. Ellen Hart, VP of Engineering at Grayson Analytics. We'd met years back at a cloud infrastructure conference. She was sharp, quiet, cut through BS like a scalpel. Back then, we talked about distributed systems for an hour while everyone else got drunk at the open bar. I dialed. She picked up on the second ring. Dan Everett, haven't heard your voice in a while. Got something for you, I said. An exclusive patent on a stream processing architecture your team would kill to get their hands on. It's clean, it's scalable, and it's already battle-tested. Just not by you. She didn't hesitate. You free to talk tonight? I'm talking now. By the end of the call, she'd looped in her legal lead. I sent over the filing, the technical summary, the time-stamped record of use. Her silence after reading it lasted all of 10 seconds. This is gold, she said. What do you want? Full exclusivity, fast close, press release rights. I can get you payment in 72 hours, if the lawyers sign off. They will, she paused. Why now? I looked at the plant sitting next to me, its leaves still curled from the dry office air. Because I've been quiet long enough. Ellen's team didn't waste time. By the next morning, I had an NDA in my inbox and a calendar invite from someone named Paige, her lead IP counsel. We got on a call that afternoon. Dan, I'm walking through your documentation now, she said, tapping her keyboard. You weren't bluffing. This isn't just clean. It's airtight. Wouldn't have brought it to you if it wasn't. She paused. How long were they using it? Almost a year, embedded across 6 products, possibly more. And no licensing agreement? None. They don't even know what they stole. That got a quiet laugh out of her. Okay, well, this has teeth. By the end of the day, I had a formal term sheet. Ellen's offer was aggressive. Full exclusivity, no carve-outs, upfront cash within 72 hours, and a clause that let them announce it publicly as a competitive acquisition. I skimmed the red lines, barely needed revisions. They weren't trying to play games. Ellen called me directly that night. This is going to hit hard, she said. You sure you're ready for that? I'm not the one who should be nervous. She laughed once, sharp and short. Fair enough. We're timing the press drop for Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. That hits right after lunch on the East Coast, right before stand-up on the West. It'll get noticed. Good, I said. Let's make sure they feel it. She went quiet for a second, then added, I know what this cost you. No, I said. You know what it's worth. The final contract arrived by secure link the next morning. I poured coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened it. There it was, my name, locked in legal print, patent number, exclusivity terms, payout schedule, signed on their end. I didn't hesitate, I signed, hit send, and that was it. No confetti, no dramatic music, just a soft ding as the confirmation landed. The decision was irreversible. I didn't feel triumph, didn't feel rage either, just stillness, like tightening the last bolt on a machine no one else knew existed. I didn't burn anything down. I didn't yell. I just made the board unplayable. Now it was their move. And I already knew what that move would be. They'd find out around lunch. Ellen's press team would issue the release. Analysts would connect the dots, calls would start flying, legal would scramble, Slack channels would explode. And Mark, smug, lazy, blind Mark, would realize he'd built half the company's core systems on tech he didn't own, couldn't even touch anymore. I leaned back, sipping my coffee, watching the sun creep across the hardwood floor. The match hadn't even been lit yet, but the fuse was already gone. The press release hit at exactly 11:30. Grayson Analytics secures exclusive rights to next-gen streaming architecture developed by veteran systems engineer. My name was in the second sentence. Clean. Unmissable. By 11:45, the first LinkedIn post popped up from some industry analyst in Austin. Big move from Grayson. Wonder what this means for all the companies currently using that architecture. By noon, the panic was underway. I got the first text from Kyle, old friend in accounting. Kyle, CTO is losing it. Kyle, they just pulled everyone into a call. Full floor can hear the shouting. I didn't respond. Just sat back in my chair and watched the market page. 12:03, stock started dipping. First a trickle, then a slow lean. By 12:30, it was down 6%. Internal Slack must have lit up like a Christmas tree. Kyle, legal's scrambling. Kyle, they're asking how your name's on the patent. Kyle, bro, I think Mark just got called out on speaker. That got my attention. I opened my laptop, pulled up a public calendar link someone had once accidentally shared. The exec sync was still visible. It had started 15 minutes ago. Kyle, CTO just asked him flat out, why does this patent have your name in the commit history, but not on the patent itself? I could picture it. Mark in his polished chair, sweat forming around the collar of his expensive shirt, trying to sound like he had control. Kyle, he said it must be a documentation mistake. Kyle, CTO said, you signed off on this architecture in April. Did you know it was patented then? Mark must have tried to pivot, probably brought up how I wasn't a team player or made it hard to collaborate. Didn't matter. He'd attached his name to everything he touched. Every doc, every sprint plan, every commit where he so much as left a comment. Classic Mark move. Grab the credit before the dust settles. Now that ego made him the fall guy for a multi-million-dollar disaster. Kyle, someone just asked if they can backdate a license. Legal said no chance. Kyle, CTO's pacing. Guy looks like he's about to stroke out. Kyle, Mark keeps saying, this isn't catastrophic. 12:57, dip hit 11%. I refreshed the patent registry. Still there. My name, clear as day. Status, licensed exclusively to Grayson Analytics, public, immutable, untouchable. Kyle, oh my God. Kyle, someone just asked if we owe royalties. CTO said, we owe whatever they say we owe, or we unplug half the system. I nearly laughed, but I didn't. Just watched the fire spread. Somewhere in that glass office, Mark was running out of rope. His usual tricks, gaslighting, blame shifting, polished half-truths, weren't built for this kind of fire. They weren't going to ask how this happened. They were going to ask who led it, and his name was all over it. At 2:15, Ellen's team dropped the second press release. Subtle, just a quiet flex with brutal precision. Grayson Analytics confirms exclusive licensing of Streamweave, TTM, developed and patented by veteran engineer Daniel Everett. Underneath was a photo, old conference shot. Me and Ellen shaking hands next to a booth banner. Nothing flashy, but sharp enough to cut straight through every meeting room at my old company. I refreshed the newswire. The story had already been picked up by 3 industry blogs. Grayson's IP power play. Former engineer strikes back with patent deal. Streamweave license shakes infrastructure stability at rival firm. Then the calls started. Not to me, to them, investors, clients, partners, all asking the same question. What are you doing about this? Kyle. Rumor is Mark's position is under review. Kyle. He tried to push blame on engineering. CTO shut it down. Kyle. HR is drafting something. Can't confirm if it's a termination package or just pressure. I pictured that smug grin he always wore in meetings. The one where he leaned back like he was above the rest of us. I wondered how far back he was leaning now. No gloating, just gravity. By 4, internal leaks started spilling online. A Slack screenshot made it to a startup gossip Twitter feed. Mark replying with, "We have contingencies in place," followed by someone below typing, Like what? Rebuilding the entire back end? Legal got pulled in again, but there wasn't a fight to be had. They used proprietary tech, never licensed it, never credited it. The entire platform sat on a stolen foundation, and I had the deed. I spent the afternoon on my back patio with the plant, the same one Mark tried to claim as company property when he fired me. It had perked up, new leaves unfolding, healthier than it ever looked under fluorescent lights. I trimmed the browning edges and poured a fresh glass of water into the soil. Inside, the headlines kept stacking up. Mark's name was in all of them now, always in the second or third paragraph. Never in bold, never the lead. That made it worse. He wasn't a villain, just a failure, an avoidable one. I didn't toast him, didn't rage, just watched the balance tip back where it belonged. He made me invisible for years. But this didn't need noise. The next morning, I opened Ellen's site while my coffee brewed, right there, front and center. A clean new banner, built on Streamweave, TM, the future of scalable systems. Subtle, no mention of the deal, no shots fired, just enough for every CTO in the country to connect the dots. Trade blogs picked it up within the hour, some focused on the tech, most focused on the drama. Grayson's patent coup signals IP reckoning. How a quiet engineer toppled a loud executive. My phone buzzed. Texts from former coworkers. Most just said, "Damn," or "That was you." A few asked if I'd planned the whole thing. One guy sent nothing but a fire emoji and the word respect. None of them had spoken up when it mattered, but I didn't hold it against them. They were still stuck inside. By mid-morning, the unraveling was visible. Public Slack channels were ghost towns. Meetings stacked up back to back. Engineers scrambled to figure out what they could salvage. Product managers were begging legal for safe paths forward. Kyle sent a screenshot of an email from one of the VPs. "We need to decouple from Streamweave immediately. All options on the table." Good luck with that. By 2 p.m., the first report dropped. Sources say internal review has concluded. Executive departure imminent. Then, at 3:04, I saw the update go live. Former executive steps down amid IP scandal. No name, no quotes, but the image said everything. A blurry photo of Mark walking out of the office, jaw clenched, folder under his arm. I stood in my kitchen, sipping coffee. The plant sat by the window, leaves stretched toward the light. I gave it a slow pour, watching the water settle in. No gloating, no speeches, just that quiet shift inside, the weight finally gone. He made me invisible, I made him irrelevant, and I didn't just win, I ended the game, on my terms.